yesterday's price is not today's price.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. This is the Maverick Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Maverick. Today, we are rolling out the red carpet. We have the super talented Selinda Sanchez on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I am honored and delighted to be here with you.
Before we dive into everything, for the 1% of the people out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
As you mentioned, I'm Selinda Sanchez, super talented. I don't see the talent,
Absolutely.
but other people do, you know.
Humble.
Thank you. I was born in San Luis Potosí.
Okay.
Lived there till I was about maybe a year and a half. After that, I went to go live in Mexico City.
Cool.
Was there for about another year and a half. Came to the U.S. when I was 3 years old. That's when we finally migrated and have been here since then.
Okay.
Oklahoma City, raised, Southside, Capitol Hill,
Reppin'.
high school, graduate, you know?
Cool. So you don't remember anything from Mexico? Do you have any sort of brief memories growing up there? Not even the food, nothing?
No, not at all. I wish I could.
Okay.
I do miss Mexico.
Yeah.
But I can't say I miss the memories because I don't remember the memories.
Do you remember sort of what spurred the movement to the U.S.? What drove that decision?
Definitely the lack of resources down there for my parents. My parents wanting to give me a better future. At the time, it was just me.
Okay.
My younger brother wasn't born at the time, but it was just the whole in the search of the American dream.
Yeah, for sure. So growing up in school, what kind of kid were you? Were you into academics? Were you into sports? Were you introvert, extrovert? Tell us about you as a kid.
I would say I was all of them.
All of them. Okay.
I love sports. I did track when I was in 4th and 5th grade.
Really? Okay.
I went to Lee Elementary.
So did I.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I went to
cool.
Lee Elementary. I did track and field. I was that person that your parents get that note, hey, your daughter talks too much. We've had to move her, from seat around the classroom. Social butterfly.
I feel like back in the day, they used to give that note as a bad thing, but I think, that's kind of a good thing, right? Especially in today's day and age where networking and social media and everything's collaborative, every career basically, right?
Right. It is collaborative, but we also did have that face-to-face interaction, something
True.
that the generations now, they don't have. Everything is digital.
That's true.
You're sending a text message, you're sending an email, or you have someone to do that for you. Where back then as a kid, you had to do it yourself.
Right.
Or you had to write those paper notes and pass it
pass
along, give it to someone. Hey, pass this down to, whoever.
Right.
And you're waiting till the next period to hear back from that note.
Yep.
It was
check
the
yes
original
or no,
text message.
Maybe check yes or no, right? Yeah. So you did sort of the track and field, and then in high school, did you pursue that further, or were you more into other sports, or what happened in high school?
I did cheerleading in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, I did cheerleading in middle school. Did it for 1 year.
Okay.
The second year, it didn't work out as I wanted.
What
but
happened?
It's okay.
You just weren't in love with the actual once you got to do it?
I really wasn't. I did enjoy it because I did enjoy the traveling, going from school to school, getting on the school bus, wearing, the makeup, all that stuff. When I went to high school, though, the first year I wasn't as involved. The second year, sophomore year, I became more involved.
Mm-hmm.
I was a soccer manager for the men's team.
Okay.
3 of my friends at the time, they were like, hey, you should do it. I'm like, okay,
Why
cool.
not?
Why not? It'll get me to go to other schools and travel and hang out and all that stuff. Junior year, I did volleyball. I was a volleyball captain my junior and senior year.
Okay, all right.
And I played soccer my senior year for the girls team, and it was
cool. So when I was growing up, Capitol Hill was a little rough. I don't know if it was a little rough when you were there.
I think it comes down to your environment, your friends, your social circle.
Yeah.
There were teenage pregnancies going on. There were individuals getting incarcerated. There were deaths in my class, but
How'd you avoid that?
Circle of friends, picking out what friends are going to push you to become someone who is not going to become another statistic.
But there's a lot of peer pressure, right? So a lot
definitely.
of like peer pressure. Hey, do you want to go ditching? Hey, do you want to do this cool thing? Right? Like there's a lot of peer pressure.
Oh
right?
yeah,
so
for sure.
How did you sort of avoid the peer pressure?
I think like the first 2 years I did go on like National Ditch Day just because it was cool and I wasn't as focused until I started getting these deeper bonds with the individuals I was hanging out. And they're like, hey, well, we're not going to participate in that. We're just going to do this instead. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm down for that. That sounds good.
Cool. So
I did fall into the peer pressure, just maybe not the
full limit.
Not the full peer pressure that would get me into trouble.
Yeah. What would you say was like the sketchiest maybe situation, or did you even have anything like that where you're like, okay, maybe I should be more careful who I hang out with or anything like that? Did you experience anything like that?
Yes. When I started seeing all of the friends that I grew up with, elementary and middle school, get pregnant at the age of like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And I knew that was not in my plans.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I kind of just switched gears on things and perspectives.
What was sort of like your career ambitions? Like what were your dreams in high school? What did you want to do?
I don't know what I want to do yet. And I'm older now.
You're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out, taking it day by day.
That's true, right? Because a lot of people are like, hey, you got to figure it out by the time you're 18 or whatever. And that's a crazy decision, right? Like that's like your whole life.
And a lot of times you do get to that point and you're like, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I expected. This is not what I was sold and told. Yeah. And it's okay to start all over on what you do want to do.
Yeah. So I'm bought in, but the question is, were your parents cool with that? Where you're like, hey, I don't know what I want to do. Or they're like, okay, that's fine.
My parents have always been very, very supportive in all the decisions I've done in my life, whether they've been the best that support me, whether they have not been the best that support me. They've never like left me. They've always held my hand and like had that support behind me.
Yeah. Was there a lot of pressure to go into a certain career or do, because they came to the U.S., right? Like the whole purpose was to give you a better life, right? Like I always feel guilty for that. Me personally, right? Like I always try to like do the best at everything, right?
Exactly. And I think that is one big motivator of me wanting to pursue more and better because of what they've done to get me to where I am at now. Yeah. They sacrificed their families, their households, their everything that they had, their lands to try and provide me to do something better. Why won't I do something better?
Yeah. But it sounds like you were never really a troublemaker.
No.
You kind of did your thing and still
real follower.
Did good in school, so good grades, everything was cool.
Yeah, everything was good. Survived the South Side.
Yeah. That's a big goal, right? Like I always tell people I wish I would have had like some of my friends from high school go on to OU. Mm-hmm. Like none of my Hispanic friends went to OU. Like that would have been awesome to be like, hey, like I've known this guy since high school, since middle school or whatever, but none of them.
Yeah. I wish I would have had a similar experience to that. However, we do now live in a world where we are still connected. I'm still really good friends with people from elementary, really? We're all still in touch with each other, even if we don't see each other on a daily basis or on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, but I'm still seeing like they're growing up, their kids are growing up. They're expanding their families, they're expanding careers, they're expanding in all the awesome things they're doing now.
That is, I guess, a positive thing about social media, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people want to talk about the bad stuff, but it does allow you to stay connected to people that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Yeah. So that's a good point.
And we are humans that do need that interaction, the community feeling.
So when did you say, hey, I'm going to go to the university? This is going to this is what I want to study. How'd you figure all that out?
When the friends that I was hanging around with at the time, they were about a year older than I was. Okay. They went to school, OU, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing now too.
So you just picked OU based on your friends or what?
Not based on my friends. I think it's like nostalgia also because my dad's like the biggest OU fan.
I've seen that. You guys go to a lot of football games
We
together,
do.
right?
Yeah, that man loves his Sooners. Like
There you
he
go.
posts his Saturday
right?
things, like
Yeah.
everything for the Sooners.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like his front yard is decorated in like Sooner stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like Sooner parking only. If you're not a
Nice.
fan, park across the street, like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Awesome.
He doesn't get rowdy.
I like
with
him
people.
already. I like him already.
He
Yeah.
doesn't get rowdy with people, but that's just like the person he is.
Yeah.
So growing up, I watched football games with him.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't understand the game
Yeah.
until he would like break it down for me to a
Yeah.
level where a 9-8-year-old could understand football.
That's cool. So that's where that connection of going to football
Yeah.
games, it started like early age.
I didn't take my dad to his first OU game until I was a lot older.
Okay.
I think it was 2012.
Cool.
So
That's a cool bond to have,
Yeah.
right? Especially like with the daughter, right? Like usually like daughters like football, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like you got a good bond over football.
Yeah, like over sports in general, like
Yeah.
even watching the Mexican, the Liga Mexicana,
Okay.
you know,
What's his team?
I think he's an America fan. He
Oh.
kind of like just goes around.
That's Omar's people over there. Yeah.
I think he just enjoys the sport because he used to play soccer when he was younger.
Okay.
I also grew up watching him play every Sunday on the soccer fields off like 22nd
okay.
Street.
Cool,
So
cool.
sports have always been in my life.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of maybe why you started to get into sports, maybe too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I think it was a really big influence being every Sunday at the soccer field with my dad.
Yeah, that's cool. So was he like psyched when you're like, hey, I'm going to OU?
Oh, he was
Like,
thrilled.
Tell me about that.
thrilled.
Like when you got the acceptance letter, like how'd it go down?
I had him and my mom open it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a language barrier. So I had to tell them what it said and like
Okay.
what it meant. And they're like, oh, okay, you're going. I'm
Were you like
yeah.
freaking out? Like, oh, maybe I didn't get accepted? And you're like, okay, let's read it together? Or what? Or you're like, I got it in the bag. I'm in.
I kind of already had a high suspicion
Yeah.
that I was in, that I
Okay.
had already been accepted just because the size of my class, my GPA, my extracurricular activities that I was involved in.
Got it.
So I was like, okay.
So you're like, my application is solid. Like, I'm in.
Not quite, but I had a high feeling that,
Yeah.
that I had been accepted. So I had them open the letter and they didn't understand it at first. They're like, okay. And I'm like, it means que me aceptaron, que voy a
Yeah.
la universidad. They're like, oh, okay. So like,
That's awesome.
it just changed for them.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Especially being like a first generation.
Yeah.
To graduate high school, to be in college, to do all of that stuff.
Right, right. And it just kind of solidifies like, hey, we came to the US to give you a better life. Like you're going to OU. How cool is that, right? Like that's a real cool story to be able to tell.
Right. How can I pay back all the sacrifices that you've done
Yeah.
for me and like for yourself?
Yeah. Did you know, okay, we got in. Did you know like what do you want to study? Like that's like the first question that everybody's going to like, what's your major?
Yeah.
Right.
At that time when I got there, I was a little knew that I wanted to do something like health related. So my first intention was health and exercise science.
Okay. Why health?
I grew up watching my dad being involved in sports, always running. My mom also played sports when she was younger. She played volleyball.
Okay.
So I always grew up in a household where everyone was active one way or
Got it.
another.
Okay.
There were also like other factors. My mom was getting older. Her health was starting to, I wouldn't say decline, but like little diseases were starting to pop up here and there. So I was like,
Yeah.
I need to do something for her, for myself, for the community. So, and I was like, I love sports. Why not combine like health and exercise science?
Yeah.
So when I got there, I realized how much my classes were going to be as similar as a nurse. And I was like, I don't want to
You didn't
become a
want to
nurse.
do it? No. Okay.
So I kind of took a pause, still was taking like my general eds. After that, I was really interested in social work.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah.
That's one extreme to the
Yeah, kind of ish,
Yeah.
you know, because
I mean, I guess you're helping people either way.
Yeah.
But like what you're studying, right? Like your basics they're all going to change, right?
yeah, like your major courses change, but your basics stay the same. So when I got into the social work, I was like, okay, I kind of like this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was starting to hear the stories of like, you know, all the unfortunate things that happen to families. And I was
Right.
like, I don't know if I can handle it.
It's tough, especially with kids, right? You hear
Yes,
about like
yeah.
abuse or whatever, unfortunate situations. Like it's tough to do that.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't think this is going to work out for me. Let me go ahead and stop there.
Wow.
So then I took a 10-year gap from school.
Really?
Yeah, I took a 10-year gap. And then whenever I decided to go back to school, I saw that the University of Oklahoma was offering public health, community health this time. And I was like, this is perfect. This intertwines both of the careers that I wanted to do that very first time, health and exercise
science. So walk me through that. Like what's community?
You're basically wanting to help the community do prevention and disease prevention, any sort of type of health risk, reduce that. And when the person has been exposed or does have a disease, try to help with the treatment and educate the community on how to either prevent or how to work with whatever disease may arise.
So you're like, okay, I enjoy the people aspect of it, and I still have sort of this health sort of like tangled in between, right?
Yeah. So I figured it was perfect for me. And,
cool.
And it's worked out since then.
And that's what you stuck with.
Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. And my understanding is you're about to graduate, right? So
sometime next year.
That's cool.
I do like part-time school, part-time work. So it's kind of hard to balance everything.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience at OU, because I know for me it was sort of a culture shock. And then like nobody really from my family could like give me their experience, right? Because nobody had done it before, right? So
definitely a culture shock. You know, I went from a classroom that was maybe 22 of us.
Exactly.
And
those general ed classes, like an auditorium.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
So I went from a classroom where there was like 22 of us, and all of us were like Spanish speaking. They all looked like me, dark hair, brown skin. You know, every now and then there was another person out of what I was, you know, like used to, you know, Caucasian, African American. Yeah. And I go to OU, my classes are like 300 people, 150, 200.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm the only person that doesn't look like them.
Yeah. And then literally nobody's going to notice if you're in class or not.
Right.
So it takes a lot of like dedication to like do it on your own and like make sure you're doing the right things, because nobody's going to be there to tell you, hey, be in class, do your work, whatever. And I think that's where a lot of people fail too, right?
Exactly.
And get all this freedom all of a sudden.
Exactly. It's like, you mean I don't have to go to school anymore? Like it's my choice now? You're not going to mark me tardy in unexcused absence?
I had friends that would like, oh, so the final's worth this much, so I only have to do this much on this test. Like they would do all the math and be like, if I could just get like these grades on these 3 tests, I can pass a class.
Breaking it down and like, seeing what is the best way for them to pass.
How to be a slacker.
A smart slacker.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a culture shock at the time. Yeah. But little by little, you start building this community because you're not the only one in that position. Yeah. So you start circling around others that kind of look like you, that have similar backgrounds, similar stories, and you start building a whole new network. Yeah. For me, it was all the Texas people. Like that's like where I started saying, okay, this guy's kind of like me, but he's from Texas, right? Like, or even it was like people from the South Side also. Even if you didn't go to school with them directly, you had a friend that knew their friend. Yeah. But it's like, hey, like we share this friend in common now. Right, like let's kind of be buddies now. Yeah. So did you enjoy it, or were there like some rough times where you're like, okay, this is a little bit more challenging? It was definitely challenging. It was hard for my parents to understand, like, I can't come home every weekend. Yeah. You don't understand like what I'm going through right now. Yeah. And I didn't have like that older sibling that some people now have to look up to or to ask for guidance. Kind of just had to figure it out on my own. Yeah. And there was no blueprint. There isn't. We are the blueprint for others. That's true. Yeah, that's one way to think about it. Because I wish I would have had like at least somebody in the neighborhood, somebody like could be like, okay, well, this guy did this or this and that. Maybe I can ask him questions. Yeah, Yeah. But the good thing is we get to be the blueprint for someone. That's true. Yeah. So did you partake in any partying? Did you get into trouble? Like what was OU like for you? Parties, yes. Trouble, no. I've always rule follower again. Okay. Cool. So you were like grades, no problem. Everything's cool, under control. Yeah. That was good. It was more of like trying to find where I kind of fit and kind of do my thing.
Yeah. And what about internships or trying to figure out like, okay, yeah, it sounds good, right? On paper, this is what I'm going to study. This is my major. But then did you get a little taste of like, hey, this is what I'm going to do?
I think I'm getting that now.
Okay.
This second time around in school.
Cool. How has that been?
I've loved it.
Yeah.
Obviously, my classmates are a little younger than me.
Sure.
So.
But you can like sort of be a comedian. You can like, you can mix in. I'm sure you're fine.
Yeah. It's just a different approach, a different perspective on wanting to finish your career, of wanting to do what is best for you at that time.
Yeah. Cool. So I know when we were talking about you being on the podcast and you were like, well, what am I going to wear? And I was like, well, just wear like a band t-shirt. Like that's what I always do. Right. And you're like, oh, I got plenty of those. Like, that's like my jam. Like concert, like merch is my thing.
Oh,
right?
For sure. I love concert merch.
So how did the love of concert and concert merch, like how did that go down?
My very first concert was Ivy Queen. The
really?
reggaetonera.
No way.
Yes, I was
Where?
like 16 years old.
Yeah.
My cousin and my uncle, they were like, do you want to go? I'm like, yes, I want to go. So it was at OK Corral.
No
I still
way.
have like,
really?
Yeah, it was at OK Corral. I still have like pictures from that concert and stuff
That's
with the
awesome.
whole camera, the disposable camera. And
Have you posted them before?
No, I've never
You should
posted
post
them.
that.
I
That's
should.
really cool.
Yeah, I'll probably do like a Throwback Thursday or something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like the reason that I came about knowing like who Ivy Queen was, do you remember the channel Mundos?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I grew up watching that channel.
Okay.
There was always this show called The Roof.
The Roof. I don't know if I watched that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it like took place supposedly like the set was designed to be like a roof. So it was like boxes and then like you could see like a skyline. Yeah, like a New York City skyline type of thing in the background.
Okay.
They would always feature like all these reggaeton artists.
Okay.
And they would let people call in to like request a song or like to chat or whatever.
Cool.
I was that person. I would call into the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're probably too young, but I don't know if this was around. Do you remember The Box? Did you ever watch that? You're probably too young. You don't know.
I don't.
So there was like a TV show called The Box, and like people would call in for hip hop.
Maybe it was their take like on a Latino spin.
It was similar. Yeah.
Okay. So like that's how I started learning more about like the reggaetoneros, the artists, Daddy Yankee, Nicky Jam, Trevor Clan.
So you were like calling in, like requesting songs.
Yes, yeah. Like I was that
awesome.
person.
Yeah.
So then I don't know how it came about because there was no social media at the time.
Yeah. Not even like MySpace or anything like that.
I think I was too young at the time to have MySpace.
Yeah.
But I think like my uncle told me on the radio or something, like he heard it on the radio and he's like, do you want to go? And I was like, yes, I want to. So I was like, Mom, can I go? She's like, who's taking you? Where is this at? And I'm like, my uncle and my cousin. She's like, okay, like I trusted him.
She didn't even say like, hey, who's this Ivy Queen?
No.
Like, let me hear the lyrics, nothing?
No,
She's like,
again, very supportive. She's like, okay, that's
Nice.
fine. So we like went and bought our tickets and there was probably like 20, 30 people
That's it?
at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. This was
crazy.
like at the very, very beginning of her career. Or I guess when reggaeton had been a little bit more accepted because reggaeton was definitely underground.
Yeah, especially around here. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe East Coast, she was probably like big already. But here, right?
Not in Oklahoma. Yeah. So I went to that. That was my very first concert.
That's
After
awesome.
that, I went back to like another concert and I think it was Pegaso.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going one extreme to the other.
I'm telling you.
How did you get into Pegaso? That's like a old school, like probably like dad vibes music, right?
Definitely dad vibes. And that's where it comes from because my dad, that's all he would listen to, like Pegaso, Sonido Master, Grupo Topaz, and like a lot of Tejano. Joe Lopez, Maz, Jimmy Gonzalez, Ram Herrera, like all that stuff is what I grew up listening to with my dad.
How did he get into Tejano music? Do you know?
He grew up more in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
He grew up more in Texas when he like migrated before us.
Yeah.
So he was listening to all these artists and I was listening there with him.
Nice.
So Pegaso was my second concert. After that, it was like Lil Wayne and like it was just been all over the place.
That's awesome.
Like since then.
Yeah. That's cool. And then you're rocking the Tigres del Norte.
Of course.
You were telling me that you've seen them a couple of times at least, right?
Yeah. They were just here last September. That was the second time I got to see them. I got to experience that concert with my mom because she's a really big Tigres del Norte fan.
Awesome.
So that was a really, really special night.
Yeah. Did you ever pursue... I'm just going to dive into it. I've heard that maybe you pursued some music and you might have been in a rock band.
Oh,
right?
gosh. Yeah. So at that time, many years ago, my cousins, they had a band.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you want to be part of it? I'm like, sure.
What age?
Again, falling into peer pressure. I was like,
what
okay.
age? Like what age were we talking about?
I was like 19 till I was about like 21 or so.
So like you were at OU in a rock band?
Yeah, like
No
I
way.
would come and hang, and I didn't really get to perform.
Yeah.
It was more like me hanging out with them, and like whenever they would do like rock nights at Mangos, RAP, really good fun place.
Yeah.
They would host like these rock nights on Sundays, or it would just kind of depend what was available.
Yeah.
So I would hang out with them, help with the setup, help with whatever needed to be done.
Yeah.
And from time to time, they would let me perform.
Cool.
And I had like my 2 little songs that I would perform all the time.
So you were the singer? Like you played an instrument? Like what did you do?
I would hang out with them, like be part of the band. And then there were times where I did get to sing like my own songs.
Okay. Let's hear it.
No.
What type of songs would you perform? Like covers or what?
Yeah, definitely covers. One of them was like Rosa Pastel by Belanova.
Okay.
And to this day, like whenever we're having like family get-togethers and it's like karaoke time, they're like, go ahead and sing it, but more as a like them picking at me.
Yeah. That's cool. So you would consider yourself a singer? Like you know how to sing?
No, I love singing. I don't have the voice to sing.
Okay.
Another song that I would perform was like Zombies by Cranberries.
Nice.
So it was just to kill time and hang out and do what I wanted to do.
Cool. Were you into that music? Like, or was it just because like your cousins were into rock and they got you into it? Or
no,
you were into the rock stuff
I've always
as well?
been into like rock. I love every genre of music.
Everybody always says that, but then they're like, well, not country. Well, not like rock.
I do enjoy some country songs, but like I grew up listening to El Tri, Maná, Caifanes, Hombres G, like the traditional rock in Spanish. And then in English, it was like Metallica, Nirvana.
Okay.
So a little bit of like everything, that 90s grunge. Guns N' Roses, one of my favorite bands.
Nice.
That I have seen like twice already also.
Yeah. What's like your favorite like rock concert you've been to?
I recently went to the Pearl Jam concert.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Cool.
I was at that
good?
one. Yeah. It was good. I think the first time I got to see Guns N' Roses was like my favorite rock concert. At that time they played at the Lloyd Noble Center. Okay. It did take Axl Rose like about an hour and a half to come onto stage. He's notorious for that. Jeez. But it was a good time. Slash wasn't there. But the second time I did get to see Guns N' Roses, Slash was there. So it was a different experience, different venue. Yeah. Things had kind of changed.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're kind of like me where there's always a concert you want to go to.
Oh, for sure.
It's like always like a Spanish or English concert and then all the genres. Yeah. And it's like, take all my money. Right?
Yeah, that is me. That is definitely me. Yeah. I would like to go see Luis Miguel because he is going to be here in October.
Yeah, he's coming again. Did you go the last time
I
around?
didn't get to go. Yeah. No, I didn't get to go. Did you go?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, that guy still has it.
Yeah. Another concert that I was looking forward to go to was Ana Gabriel when she was here back in March.
Went to that
I didn't get to go to that one. I got stuck in New York City.
Oh man! Oh wow! such horrible. I got stuck in New York, right? Yeah.
There was like weather, so
cool.
You just make the best out of it.
Yeah, I sort of have like people like that, like Ana Gabriel, like all these legends that I want to see before they retire.
Exactly.
Right, because I never got to see Vicente Fernandez, and I wish I would have got to see him. Right, so. Do you have a list of like goats that you want to see like before they retire or anything like that? Like Elton John, I went to go see Elton John.
I wanted to go to that one too, but I couldn't get to go to that one because I didn't have anyone to go with.
Yeah. That's always my problem too. Like I'll go like, hey, let's go to this concert, and like people either not want to go or they don't know who it is.
Exactly. I think that's one of my biggest issues. They're like, we don't know who that is, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, I'm sure you have to have heard a song or two or something. They're like,
that's
nope,
me like trying to convince people to go see like Ed Maverick or somebody like that. They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So what's on your list of like must see concerts before they retire?
Ana Gabriel was one of them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I get to go to the Luis Miguel one.
Yeah.
Because who knows when he might retire.
Right.
I don't know who else that I can think of right now.
Yeah. No hip hop concerts. Like I want to see like Jay-Z eventually. I don't know if I'll ever get to, because he does like super like art shows, super exclusive stuff now. He doesn't really do a lot of,
I'm sure you can get in the mix. Someone will throw you a ticket.
We'll see. Fingers crossed. But Jay-Z for sure. I want to see him. So.
Yeah. I've gotten to see a lot of like hip hop artists that I'm like, okay, I've seen them.
Okay.
I love concerts.
That's cool. And then you buy merch at every concert, because I do that too.
I try to, yeah. Whether it's like a t-shirt or a tote.
Yeah.
Those are like my two things, the t-shirt or the tote.
Awesome. You seen anybody here upcoming soon or no? Nobody on your radar?
I think I wanted to go to the Raúl Alejandro concert, which I think was today
Is it
in
today?
Dallas.
Oh, man.
In Dallas. I wanted to go to that one. Didn't get to because I had already committed to this.
Yeah.
And I am a woman of my word. No.
It's like Raúl Alejandro Maverick podcast. I'm sure it's like
Maverick podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I'll take it.
I didn't get to go. However, I am going to go see Grupo Frontera in November.
Yeah.
I
Right,
love
so
the
tell
vibe
me,
that they're coming.
What do you
with.
think about the Bad Bunny song? Like, I'll hold my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was cute.
Yeah.
Like the mix of both genres.
Yeah.
I don't think that like Bad Bunny was necessarily like singing. It did feel like he was like rapping over like a norteño sound of music.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was cute. I like it.
I'll tell you what I think. So I think it's a big win for the culture. It's awesome. Number one song in the world, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome win, right? I'm happy for that. But to me, it feels like it's forced. And when I was hearing about the backstory of it, like they never even knew that Bad Bunny was going to be on the song. Like the guy wrote the song and he's like, hey, I've got a surprise. They show up to record the video the day of. And that's when they're like, okay, Bad Bunny's going to come out and do his part. So knowing that, it kind of seems like it was forced to me. And it wasn't really like, okay, like I dig what you're doing. I want to do a collab type thing. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do it, hop on because you guys are hot. And then if you listen to the song and you know that background, to me, it sounds different. It sounds forced. And then when it's the Bad Bunny part, like the rhythm changes for a little bit, then it goes back and it's like, it feels forced to me.
When I first heard the song, I had not watched the video.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what the video looked like. So when I first heard the song, you know, like Grupo Frontera is performing, they're doing their part.
Yep.
And then Bad Bunny jumps in. It almost sounded like he had pre-recorded like at another studio and sent it to them, and they just blended both recordings into one.
And that's what happened. And they didn't even know that was going to happen. So to me, that's like, oh, come on. Like, you guys could have done better than that.
It's still a catchy song.
It is catchy, right? But I don't know. To me, like, if you're going to do that, to me, I want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just don't do it just because, hey, Frontera's hot. We're going to hop on and do this collab because we know we're going to have, a jam on our hands. So,
yeah.
What about Peso Pluma?
I like him.
You like him?
I like him.
Yeah.
I like his songs. It's definitely, I feel like a new genre, the corridos tumbados. Not something that I really grew up listening to.
Yeah.
But it's catchy.
You dig it?
Yeah, I dig it. I'm catching on to it.
Okay. Cool. I know you're a big Bad Bunny fan, so you've seen him in concert too, right?
I did get to see Bad Bunny back in September.
Okay.
Which was
how was that?
A great
Crazy?
show. It was a good show.
It seems like his like visuals and like his setup and everything.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's worth the price.
It's worth the
right?
price of the ticket and the experience and like the crowd gets hyped, so that gets you hype, and it's like, okay, let's keep it going. Come on.
And everybody like dresses up, and it's like a big thing, right?
Yeah, I loved that this concert, his concert, Un Verano Sin Ti, was very like beachy, so everyone was like in their beachy, flirty clothes, and
his
like,
merch
hair.
is crazy.
Yeah, the merch was also something that I had to get because I love concert merch.
Yeah, that's one of the things that took me by surprise when I went to go see Elton John. I didn't know that people dressed up. So they dress up like the different versions of Elton John, like the Dodger Elton John, like the all white Elton John, like the different. And then everybody's wearing the crazy like glasses,
big glasses,
and stuff.
yeah.
So I wasn't expecting. I just went like dressed like normal. I was like kind of like the oddball when everybody else like dressed all crazy.
Dressed up, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about yoga, because I know you're into yoga. And how did that start? And how did you? Were you just like, okay, one more thing? It sounds interesting. Why not?
Again, falling into peer pressure.
Peer pressure?
Good pressure. No,
Really?
I'm kidding. No, I'd made that decision on my own.
Okay.
So I started my yoga journey back in 2020. I had completed the half marathon 2019.
Okay. I didn't know. So you got into running? And
I've always loved being like active,
cool.
Physically active. So I did the half marathon 2019. I was like, I like it. Let me keep training. Let me try and do the half again in 2020. And if I beat my time from 2019, I'm going to go for the full.
Okay.
So 2020 comes around and I had to have surgery. So right in the middle of my training. So I had to stop my training.
Yeah.
But also the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So I was
so
like,
training was like probably weird, right? It was different. All of a sudden,
it was
right?
different. And I couldn't do it because I was out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So once I was like medically cleared, I was like, okay, I want to stay active in something, but I don't want it to be running this time around.
Yeah.
So I was like, middle of pandemic, no one is doing anything.
Yeah.
Gyms are closed. There's restrictions everywhere. You can't hang out with other individuals.
Right.
Let me go to YouTube. So at that time, like everyone was picking up everything from YouTube, how to do like the banana bread, how to do the Korean coffee, how to do churros,
Yeah, it was all crazy. Like,
like everyone just became bakers.
Hole,
yeah. So I was like, let me do yoga. Like I don't need to interact with anyone else.
Yeah.
I can still be at home, protecting myself, protecting the community.
Yeah.
Let's dive into this.
You almost have to be like good before you can even do it. That's what it feels like to me. Like you got to be flexible.
That's the beautiful thing about yoga. Yeah. You don't have to be flexible. No.
But I've seen you like upside down. Like,
when people say flexibility, it's actually harder for a person who is more flexible to get the same amount of benefits as someone who is not flexible.
Really?
Because a person that is flexible, your muscles have been stretched out. Yeah. You need to work twice as harder. You need to engage different things to try to get that same feeling as someone who is not flexible.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So 2020 comes around and I was like, okay, well, let me do like this YouTube yoga.
Yeah.
I did it. I had like this little yoga mat I had bought and I was like, okay, I like this. And it started progressing and I was like, I like this more. I like this more.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So then later on, restrictions were starting to lift and we were able to kind of see each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I started up looking yoga classes near me. I found some like at the Marriott Gardens. I started going to those on the days that the
ones that they do outside.
Yeah, out in the lawn.
I've seen those. Yeah, those look cool.
Yeah, it's so much fun because
Did you do the goat one too? They do the goat.
No, I haven't gone to do like one with little animals or anything.
Those seem cool too.
I maybe want to put one together where you get to do like with kittens and adopt them.
That would be cool.
Yeah, like pair up with someone and try to rescue, animals and stuff.
Cool.
So I started doing the yoga at the Marriott Gardens while I was doing the YouTube. And I was like, okay, I think I need a little bit more. I just kept getting hooked and I was starting to see all the benefits it was doing for me. Yeah. Not just physically, but like mentally. 2020 was so hard on so many people.
Definitely.
That it was definitely a place where I was finding myself, finding like clarity, finding peace.
Yeah.
So
that became your outlet.
Yeah. And that has been my outlet since then. That's cool. Like yoga. So I am coming up on 3 years of like my yoga-versary, what we call it in May.
Yeah. And it seems like you guys have like a tight-knit community.
I've met like different other communities within the yoga. The one that I hang out with the most are my people from 405 Yoga. Shout out to them in Midtown, Oklahoma City. They've become my family.
And then you became an instructor too, right?
Yeah. So
you like did the deep dive.
I'm telling you, I went in like heels deep into it. I fell so much in love with it that I was like, what else can I do? Like, to benefit myself, for me to grow and then share with my community. Cool. So I did go through their YTT, the yoga teacher training, awesome. Spring of 2021. So
I bet that was like super tough to do that, right? Like a lot of hours, or how does it work?
It's a 200-hour training.
Okay.
Obviously you don't do like the 200 hours all at once. Sure. There are dates that are set up. You do have to commit to it. So like on the weekends that I did have training, I was in bed like by 8:30, 9 o'clock, waking up because I knew I had a long day the next day. Okay. But I think that because there's so much commitment to it, it's so rewarding.
That's cool. So did you like want to do the instruction just to like be better, just like help people, or like you're just like, I just want to know everything there is about yoga, and you just kind of like became obsessed with it?
To learn more for myself. Yeah. And then eventually like offer that space to the community.
That's cool. Yeah. I think that's much needed, especially like the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a lot of representation in yoga, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately not here. And there are a lot of pre-connotations to it. Yeah. Because people think that because you do yoga, you're no longer like a Catholic. Like coming from a Catholic background, people were looking at me like, so you're not Catholic anymore? I grew up Catholic. Okay. I'm like, no, like,
I mean, it's just like a form of exercise. It's just a
form of exercise. Like, of course, there's like some spirituality to it. Sure. But just because you're practicing yoga doesn't mean that you're not the person who you kind of once were before in like the spiritual realm.
Interesting. So you got like sort of a lot of questions from friends and stuff like that.
Yeah. They're like, well, you're coming like really obsessed with it. And I'm like, no, like you just got to come and try to class. Yeah. But anytime that I invite them, they're like, oh, I'm not flexible enough.
That's my thing.
They're like, I can't do like a handstand. I can't do a headstand. And I'm like, neither could I. But the more that you show up, the more that you learn.
Yeah. So tell me about like the first day, first class. Like, what was that like? Were you like super nervous? Were you like not able to do a lot of the poses? Like what happened the first class?
For sure. Usually there's like an all levels class. So by all levels, they mean all levels. You know, it could be your very first class. It could be your 1,000 class. Okay. Everyone is at a different stage, a different level of their journey. Yeah. So when I first walked in there and, you know, we're going through the class and it was like inversion time, I saw people like on their heads and I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. I cannot do this.
So what do you do if they're at that pose and you can't do it? Like, what do you do during that duration?
There are other variations that you can do. You can obviously work on it without like injuring yourself, but there are other types of inversions. And inversion just means that your hips are above your shoulders. Okay. That's all it means.
Okay. That's a lot. Your hips are above your shoulders.
You can do that like laying down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So it just depends like where you want to get with your yoga journey. Yeah. So after a while, after showing up every so often that I could, I didn't get better. I learned more about myself.
Okay. Cool. I always hear that there's benefits to breathing too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So beyond the flexibility, the body control, there's also like breathing, right? Like,
it's a breath work exercise.
Tell me about that. Like, what do you like sort of practice with the breathing, and like, what are the benefits of doing that?
Well, obviously the breathing, you know, gets you through the class, but you also engage your muscles, you relax your nervous system, you cool down, and then you prep for like the next thing.
I see. And that sort of becomes like a meditation type of thing almost?
Yeah, it does become a meditative state for many people.
That's cool. So that would be maybe beneficial to someone that has a lot of stress maybe.
Yeah.
Or they just want to sort of unplug from the world, right?
Definitely. Yeah. You know, you connect with others in the room, but you're mostly connecting with yourself because everyone is kind of in their own world, in their own mind.
So nobody's going to be paying attention if I'm like over here, like
no,
almost falling or something?
No.
Okay.
No one is going to be bothered by that.
Cool. And then there's also hot yoga, right?
Yeah.
Have you done that?
The place that where I practice at, it's heated yoga.
Okay.
So it gets nice, warm, and toasty, and there's benefits to that, obviously, on why it's heated, just so that it becomes less injurious for individuals. Your muscles get like more stretchy.
I didn't know if it was supposed to be like more challenging. That's what I thought, but it sounds like it's the opposite. It's supposed to be more beneficial.
It can be challenging for individuals who don't like warmer weather.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to be sweating. It's going to be super hot.
Oh, you'll be sweating.
I'm going to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But thanks to that, I've really built all these, really good connections with these people. I've gotten to go to like the yoga retreats where I get to meet other people who are from other cities, from other states.
Yeah.
They're for like the same purpose, to like learn more about themselves, learn more about yoga in general.
Yeah. So do you think you're going to pursue that further? Because it kind of sounds like you started like, I'm going to try it. All of a sudden you're an instructor, and it's like, where are you going to take it?
I don't know yet. Yeah. I do want to try and like do community classes. Like I mentioned earlier, like maybe do one where you can adopt, like a pet or something, like a rescue. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll see where it goes.
That's cool. So we were talking about like, it would have been cool if we would have had the blueprint, growing up, if we would have had some models, like somebody like, just like kind of like follow, right? So maybe for the viewers out there that, maybe they don't have that, maybe, give some advice of what they can do, avoid peer pressure, do the right thing, follow things. Even if you're uncertain, try new things. You've given great examples of like how you pursued like music, rock band, yoga, like all this stuff, right? Without even knowing, just like, hey, I'm going to try it.
Exactly. I mean, definitely like have your circle of friends who want the best for yourself.
Yeah.
But everyone is on a different journey. They're just, I don't know. It's like an easy question, but a difficult answer because everyone is set up differently. My journey is different than yours, different than your producers, different than anyone else. Definitely.
And I always hear that people, some people are like seasons. They're only supposed to come into your life for a certain moment, for a certain like, purpose. And then maybe they're not going to be with you for all your life, right? Like, are you a believer of that? Like certain people just come in for certain times when you need certain things, or what?
Yes and no. Okay. Just because I have had people who have been seasons in my life, and I've learned so much from them, and I've appreciated them so much, but there are others that I have stayed connected with.
Yeah. It's always challenging.
For many years. Yeah. I recently got to see two of my best friends who I've been best friends for like 23 years now. Yeah. So I've stayed really close to them.
Okay. Who am I going to find on your playlist? I know that you were saying it's all over the place.
It seriously is all over the place. Like, have you ever seen that one meme, the one that has like Selinda Sanchez and like Tupac and then like all these other...
all like together?
Yes, that is me. It can go from like Luke Bryan to like Bad Bunny to Elvis Presley to Frank Sinatra to like Toto to like just everywhere.
What about the newer artists? Is there any new artists that you're sort of digging right now?
Definitely Peso Pluma. I think he's like I like his music, It's catchy.
Yeah. You know how to do the dance with the little hopping?
No, I don't. I don't know that. Yeah. What are other good artists that I
like? Morgan Wallen right now is blowing up. I don't know if you like him. Right.
I haven't had the chance to listen to Morgan Wallen. Yeah. Like fully, because when I say fully, it's like I listen to the album from like first song, first track to like the last one. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like all over the place with the music. Yeah.
Cool. In yoga, is there ever like a connection to music, or is always has to be like silence?
Oh no. So the place where I go to, we actually create our own playlist. Really? So like it starts off slow, and then it starts like picking up, and then like you hit the peak, and then like it starts to come back down. But there's always music.
Really?
That's something that people always tell me. They're like, "How do you go to like a 60-hour workout class and you don't talk to anyone.
That's what I always assumed.
And like
that it was
silent,
like,
no.
like either that or like the spa music is just
yeah,
like, you know, in the
no.
background
Like we're pumping, we're jamming in there. There's like reggaeton going on.
way.
There's hip hop, rap.
Really?
I was just in a class earlier this morning and Trying to Be a Baller came on by Lil Troy. And I was
yoga?
like, yeah, in yoga. Yeah. And it's like, you wouldn't have thought about that, you know?
That's awesome. So there's hip hop yoga.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's
I'm in.
hip hop yoga, reggaeton yoga, like everything yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you should pursue that. Maybe like offer like, you know, reggaeton, hip hop yoga. Come check it out, right?
That would be so nice.
That would be like a nice hook to get people in
to
the
get
door.
more people to come in and make them feel welcomed and seen and you know, you don't necessarily and comfortable. You don't necessarily have to be like the traditional like yoga person.
Yeah, for sure. One of the questions I always ask the guests is to tell me something about themselves that most people don't know about. So I'm going to put you on the spot to share a secret here.
Okay, so whenever I was little, there was like a Selena festival off Robinson and 25th Street.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And there was like a singing contest.
Nice.
And I performed in it and I got like second place in it. It was like, I think 14 years and younger. I was at the time maybe like 9 or 10 or so.
That's awesome. What did you sing or what did you perform?
A song I probably shouldn't have been singing.
Which is?
It was like Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera.
No way, really?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And
I thought it had to be like Selena songs.
No, it didn't. It was like a Selena festival, but you could sing like any song that you wanted.
That's when you're like a song that I shouldn't be singing. I was like, what, like Bitty Bitty Bom Bom or something?
No,
like, what
I mean like when
about?
you listen to like Genie in a Bottle lyrics now as you're older, you're like, But yeah, like I got second place in that, and like my mom still has like the trophy like back at home.
Is there a video?
I wish there were. I'm sure there is out there. So if anyone comes across the video or pictures, please send them to me because I would love to see it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's like something that I've never shared like with hardly anyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll be on the lookout. Maybe on a Throwback Thursday, we'll get to see the Genie in the bottle,
right?
That's awesome. Well, we are getting the signal here that we're out of time, so we'll definitely have to welcome you back, you know, especially you're about to wrap up school and you're going to pursue, you know, who knows? You're saying like, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, right?
Yeah,
so,
no, definitely open to what life throws at me. As you can tell, I kind of just dive into things and go from there. That's
awesome. And I think that you remain authentic, which is great because that allows you to try new things and not be afraid, right? Like, hey, I may not fit in, but we're going to
give it a try.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. I like that. Well, I want to thank you for your time. The door's always open. I know you said, hey, I don't usually do this type of stuff. Like I'm kind of like, you know, say to myself that, but I think you did great.
Thank you. I don't know. Maybe I come be a
there you go.
co-host with you or something.
We're always on the lookout.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you
right.
so much for having me tonight. I've had an amazing time.
Awesome. Pleasure's mine. There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the super talented Selinda Sanchez on the Maverick podcast. Keep grinding because in the dreams we trust.